Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. It's draft weekend. We have some meat to get into here, and the Steelers made their selections, as did everyone else in the NFL. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. He's not happy because the Packers picked potentially his replacement a lot earlier than he would have liked. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about the NHL, the NBA possibly moving forward here, but the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers draft, specifically what they did over the last 3 days. And here is your panel, as always. Rich Walsh, my colleague here at KDKA, in the middle from his home, the comfy confines, and then Andrew Fillipponi, the host of the PM team, 93.7 The Fan, plus his national radio show. Gents, let's get right into it. I need a letter grade from each of you. Rich, what grade would you give the Steelers for what they did over the weekend?
I hate to be an armchair quarterback here, an armchair coach, or whatever you want to call it, but I'm going to give him a C. I thought it was average. It was just just there. You know, I mean, you look at who was on the board still when they drafted Claypool, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, two guys that could really make an impact with this team, and it makes me believe in what direction that they might go by not drafting one of these two running backs. Now, Claypool, hey, maybe they could have gotten him a little bit later in the second. I'm sure teams were calling them and trying to move up and make a trade. Maybe you make a trade. Maybe you trade down in the second, still get the guy you want, and add another third or fourth or something. I just didn't like that pick right there. I thought it was kind of a reach, but hey, he has a lot of upside, I guess. He's a project guy. He might be able to be better than Martavis Bryant. What is he, the Canadian Megatron?
Mapletron, I think, is the nickname, Richie. Look, I'm very close to you, Bob. I give it a C+. I'm being a little bit charitable here. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of this draft is because for me, and I know they didn't have a lot of picks, I'm giving it a C+ because Minka, I'm counting as the first-round pick, as it turns out. But I didn't really see much to make them better for 2020. And I'm Mr. Win Now guy. I think Chase Claypool is there to replace Juju in 2021. I think Alex Highsmith is there to replace Bud Dupree in 2021. I wanted this draft to be about this year, not next year, Bob.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. For a team coming off an 8-8 season, I thought they needed to do more than they did, but with the Minka move, with Devin Bush, the third-round pick they had to give up to move up, I'm going to give them a B-. But I want to talk also about, Rich, what you talked about first, and that would be the running situation, because clearly most people felt the Steelers needed more to their running back committee, and they didn't do it. If you look at Baltimore, they had Ingram, they had Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. They didn't need J.K. Dobbins, and yet he fell right to them. Andrew, start with you on this. If you had a choice to do it all over again, Dobbins and Claypool, who would you pick?
Oh, that's easy, because they didn't come away with Leonard Fournette either, which is another subplot to this draft. If they do what the Dolphins did and traded for Matt Breida, well then, okay, that frees you up to take Chase Claypool. But they didn't come away with somebody who could be their starting running back, or at least chew into or bite into James Conner's carries. And I got a major problem with that. If you take J.K. Dobbins at pick 49, you can take a wide receiver at 101, and you take your edge rusher in the 4th round. I mean, if he's not going to play this year because you've got Bud and T.J. Watt, what's the difference? Waiting one more round for an edge rusher. So, yeah, I thought Bob, didn't they say mandate to run the ball better? Or am I hallucinating that? What have they done to fix that or make it better? Bring in a fullback?
And Dotson. Rich, your thoughts on that?
You know what, this makes me think that they're going to go to more of a passing type offense, that Claypool is going to be the guy that's going to stretch the field a little bit, kind of like Martavis Bryant. Deontay Johnson's going to be your, quote, Antonio Brown, and it's going to move Juju back to where he was successful as that really good #2 wide receiver. And he's going to do really well this year.
Hold on a second.
Put up some big yards.
Hold on, Richie. Where's that pusher guy, James Washington? You've said Steelers people say he's their best wide receiver. What does he do, get everybody Gatorade next year?
You know, that's the thing. You got 4 good, decent wide receivers. Yeah, someone's gonna be an odd man out, and it looks like it's gonna be James Washington unless Juju gets hurt again. But hey, even if Juju puts up some good numbers, they're not gonna be able to. He's not gonna be back here next year. So I think by this draft indicates that they're gonna go more pass heavy, running back by committee kind of thing. You got Matt Canada in there, who is kind of creative with the jet motion, jet sweep
again.
stuff.
I'm gonna jump in. Bob, you said all their free agent moves were about running the ball. So the draft's about passing and the free agency's about running. What are they? Which one is it?
What this draft was about to me from an offensive point of view was red zone efficiency. They went from number 1 in the NFL to number last in the NFL. So that's what they were trying to do, and that's why a guy like Claypool, who's 6'4", and has, by the way, 13 touchdowns in one season, and a guy like Ebron with 12 touchdowns in one season, that's what you're hoping for in the red zone. When it comes to running the football, they did not take a step forward here, even though they say, now, will they try to do it? Absolutely, Rich. They're going to try to do it. Will they be successful with the group they have, which adds only Anthony McFarland, who's, he's a home run hitter, but he may not even get on the field. I see no starters from this entire draft class. Do you?
No.
I think it depends on if James Conner can play well and if he stays healthy. Then they'll be okay. I think it's going to be a running back by committee. I think you're going to see Anthony McFarland there in some kind of role. Look, a few years ago, they drafted Chris Rainey, Dree Archer. They've always been looking for this type of guy, and now they have a quarterback's coach that's going to have his fingers on the offense, and they're going to be able to do something with this guy. It was his guy at Maryland in 2018. He had a couple big games, over 1,000 yards. What?
Richie, I mean, didn't LSU fire Matt Canada and then they won the national championship? I mean, we're putting a lot of eggs in the Matt Canada basket here. I mean, Anthony McFarland replaces Kareth White. I mean, that's how I see his role in the offense. I didn't go into this draft thinking the Steelers need to find like a gadget running back. I thought they needed to find a starting running back, a James Conner replacement, somebody to be there. You say if James Conner stays healthy. When does he stay healthy? Pee-wee football? I mean, high school? When was the last time he was healthy?
Hey, Pony, I agree with you. I wanted them to take Dobbins or Cam Akers. There's no question about it. They could have taken one of those running backs. They could have went with a edge rusher like Dye and then got Gandy Golden in the 4th round there at some point and still got Dotson. They still would, I think, would have been better off than where they are right now. They must really like this Claypool guy. Yep. So, look, I'm interested to see what these guys are going to do. I don't think any one of these draft picks this year is going to make an impact on the field for the Steelers this year. Maybe special teams.
Especially
maybe special teams.
With no, OTAs, no minicamp. Who knows what the preseason will look like. So that's going to make it very difficult for young players to get acclimated and make a difference, which is why I think special teams is something that will be better, absolutely. As far as anything else, I mean, you got to see, this is still basically the same team that will rely mostly on Ben Roethlisberger and whether or not he is going to be 100% coming back from injury. We'll continue the Steelers talk in a minute, but first, it's exciting when a team moves into a new building, and that's certainly true with the team at number 1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills and their spacious new facility, even though they only moved less than a mile up the street. Right now, for a limited time, get special grand opening offers in both sales and service. It's the new number 1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills, now conveniently located at 3220 West Liberty Avenue. Steeler Talk Draft Style continues next. The number 1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by number 1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.